welcome to the Really Useful Podcast. I'm Christian Cawley, and with me is my fellow Make Use Of editor and fellow Really Useful Podcast host, is Ben Stegner. Hey, Ben.
Hello, everybody. How's it going?
Yeah, not bad. It's a warm summer evening here. How's it with you in the US?
Not too bad where I am. It's summer too, of course, but it's been pretty humid the past couple of days. But so it's not dreadful, but definitely summer.
Definitely summer. Yes, unseasonably warm for the time of year here. I'm used to kind of, wind, rain, sub-zero. I was wearing a cardigan a few weeks ago. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's the usual type of weather we get here. We've got a packed show for you this week. We're going to be looking at... this is not what I'm going to say. We've got a packed show for you this week. We're going to look at that, but I've lost my notes. So we've got a packed show for you on this week's Really Useful Podcast from Make Use Of. We are going to be looking at how Amazon has confess, Amazon, that Alexa does indeed retain your voice recordings. We're going to have a look at a thing called AntStream, which is just been released in the UK this week and looks set to spread into North America pretty soon. And we'll tell you a bit more about that when we get to it. And Girlboss, the LinkedIn for women. We'll also be taking a look at some tips, how to open RAR files and other zip and compressed file formats. The art of the apology, Ben, and how to say sorry with an email and mean it. And some DIY cleaning slime, because all the kids love slime these days, and it turns out slime's a little bit more popular and important than perhaps you at first thought. But first, Amazon retains Alexa voice recordings unless you delete them. Amazon has admitted that, yes, as per many people's suspicions, it is retaining Alexa voice recordings unless and until customers delete them. In the first half of 2019, some tech publications have been investigating Amazon's handling of Alexa voice recordings. Amazon obviously is the owner of, is it the biggest or the second biggest cloud facility for websites? So they're not short of storage, are they?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the first, but Google could be first. It's probably Amazon, Google, and Microsoft, but definitely in the big leagues.
Yeah. So, Amazon aren't short of space with AWS. And they admit they retained Alexa voice recordings. Reported by CNET, they were asked, how long does Amazon store the transcripts of voice recordings? We retain customers' voice recordings and transcripts until the customer chooses to delete them. They were asked by US Senator Chris Coons, who appreciated the prompt response, but obviously wasn't that happy with the response. Which brings us all to the whole, how do you delete your Alexa voice recordings? Fortunately, it's relatively straightforward. Ben, you know how to do this, don't you?
Yeah, I don't know the exact steps off the top of my head, but I know it's in the Alexa app. I can double check here, but essentially
you the Alexa app.
You open up the app and then that you go into your settings and there should be a privacy or like a command history or something like that, where not only can you delete past commands, but you can listen to them too, which is kind of creepy. You can kind of hear all the times you were barking at Alexa to do whatever, when maybe you were a little upset or in a hurry or something. So you can delete them through there, but it is interesting what what Amazon said to this was a senator, right? Yeah, to the senator, saying how it kind of depends on what you said to Alexa. So it says if you use a skill to like call an Uber or order a pizza or something, says they keep a record of the transaction on that. But requests like setting an alarm or something similar, like making a calendar event, it says customers would not want or expect deletion of the voice recording to delete the underlying data or prevent Alexa from performing the requested task. So, that's basically saying when you delete it, it doesn't, if you tell Alexa to set an alarm and then you delete that recording, obviously it sets the alarm. But it says, the thing that I think concerns some people is that he said, we have an ongoing effort to ensure that the transcripts do not remain in any of Alexa's other storage systems. So it sounds like even if they delete it from the primary server, there's other storage system, which is pretty big.
They have revised how to do this. So you open the app, you go to settings, and then Alexa privacy. And here you can review your voice history, manage smart home device history, manage skill permissions, all that sort of thing. So if I got review voice history, and you can enable, there's a function called enable deletion by voice, which allows you to delete recordings by saying, Alexa, delete what I just said, or Alexa, delete everything I said today. So that's quite useful.
Yeah, that's handy.
I'm going to just see. I'm pretty sure there should have been activity for yesterday. There's certainly been activity for this past week. Now I'm wondering whether this is limited to the Alexa app, what I'm looking at on the app, because I don't use the app really to say anything.
I think it's
displaying no activity for everything.
And you've definitely used it recently?
Now switch to all history, and it's gone to the 6th, which was 3 days ago. So shall we play this one?
Give it a try.
Yeah, so this is my little boy shouting at Alexa. I don't know if that picked up so well, but he's basically telling it to stop playing. Oh, there's alternatively play cool music.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then there's this one of mine.
Can we stop having an Alexa battle, please?
Oh. Because, in every household with multiple people, everyone wants to listen to something different on Alexa. Yeah. So those can all be deleted through the app, as stated. It's a shame there isn't a better way of being more proactive about this, and maybe, is there anything really stopping Amazon from setting a 15 or 30 day or even a 90-day enforced deletion on these? I don't think there is.
Yeah, I guess aside from what he talked about with, receipts for ordering an item or food or whatever, I don't think it'd be that hard to set it up. So after 3 months, everything's just deleted automatically. How many people really go back in and say, oh, what did I say to Alexa 2 weeks ago or last month?
Exactly.
I don't think most people really do, unless it's like evidence for something. But that seems like a very small fraction of people.
Yeah, I'm looking through. I'm seeing if there's anything that looks embarrassing as well. But things that might have been picked up by mistake. But it's all to do with Amazon Music, basically. So
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, if it misheard Alexa and then started recording something strange, it would probably only be a snippet of a sentence anyway. But
sure,
even then, you never know what it could pick up.
Yeah, so that's that. It's not an ideal situation, but at least we know the truth now, and we know we've got a way of getting around it. Let's move on to Antstream, which has a slightly ridiculous name. What Antstream is, I'll tell you what they call them, how they describe themselves. They are the world's first retro game streaming subscription service. They're essentially the retro gaming option, the Netflix of retro gaming. No downloads, no fiddly emulators, simply instant streaming. They've gone live in the UK, and if you're in the UK, you can sign up already, and you can sign up to their mailing list. It's all available at antstream.com, which is as it sounds, to be updated of new releases, upcoming releases, and support of new countries and regions. Now, Ben and I are going to be recording another podcast later today to go out during the summer. We're going to be taking a break from the Really Useful podcast during August, at the height of summer, and we'll be back in September. So a podcast we'll be recording later on is going to be mostly about, or exclusively about, retro gaming and how it's made a bit of a comeback. If you can say something, retro's made a comeback without that being slightly regressive. I think you know what I'm saying. And Antstream's very much the kind of I don't know. It's almost as if that's at the centre of it. All of a sudden, it's sort of like it's a hope for retro games. Retro games being coming back with emulators. We've written countless articles on Makeyourself about retro gaming on all sorts of platforms with all sorts of devices: Android, PC, Windows, Mac, Linux, Raspberry Pi, everything.
Sure.
What do you think of this idea for Antstream, this Netflix of retro gaming?
I think like anything else. I always come back to like the Spotify model. If it lets people how do I phrase it? If it lets people consume the media they were already consuming legally and it's easy, then it seems like a pretty good idea. I mean, it's not like music piracy has disappeared like we talked about with Spotify, but like you can download an app for free and listen to whatever you want with a few ads, and you're doing it legally. Same with this. I don't think it'll be free, but yeah, I think
I think
it's
$7.99 or $9.99.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's similar to the price of an album a month. You get Apple Music or whatever. I think for this, I mean, a game to buy a game on the 3DS or Wii U Virtual Console is $8 or $10 depending on the system. So, you $8 a month, you can play as much as you want. It's a pretty good deal, and it's much cheaper than buying a physical cart because a lot of these games are pretty expensive.
Yeah.
Of course, collectors, if you always want to play everything on authentic hardware, that's different. But if you just want to try these games for the first time or relive a favorite or something, then this is a good way to do it, I think.
Oh yeah, there is most definitely a kind of a hardcore element to the retro gaming scene. I mean, there's people. We'll probably talk about this later, but there's people creating like replica boards of original computers and original components. Which is quite amazing. So Antstream, you can find out more at antstream.com. If you don't even have had to be playing games in the past. I mean, most of the stuff I'll be looking at if I do sign up, because I've got stuff going on with other retro systems, but this is kind of multi-platform. You can just use Antstream on pretty much any device that you own, which is probably the best thing about it. So you can play the games on your PC, you can play the games on your mobile device. That side of things is really exciting because it basically means the end of installing an emulator and fiddling to get it working properly, because that configuration's been done for you and now it is streaming to your device over the internet. And that's just convenience, isn't it?
Right, and you don't have to go hunting for ROMs, which is legally questionable anyway, and having being able to play it on any system, and if it has cross save, I imagine that'd be fairly easy to implement. That would be pretty nice too. So you can play for a few minutes on the go, and then your save is updated on your computer. Yeah. So I think this is definitely a promising look. It says thousands of games coming soon, so it seems like that'll be a pretty good collection.
Totally. So if you're into retro gaming or reliving the past, I mean, I'm not here to declare when retro gaming ends. I mean, I suppose technically anything retro is anything last year and beyond, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. What's the actual? I don't know what the actual definition of retro.
I don't either.
The dictionary. It says imitative of a style, fashion, or design from the recent past. So I mean, technically, you could say stuff from the 2000s is retro.
Yeah, I think it certainly is. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, technically, if we're going to demarcate everything into decades, then in 2 years' time, Red Dead Redemption 2 will be retro
because it's the recent past. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So, I suppose probably, in terms of gaming, because there's other things that are retro, but I think in terms of gaming, it's got to be last generation. It's got to be. I think that's probably where you're going to work back from, isn't it?
In my head, it's not a very well defined line, but I would say probably. I would draw the line at probably right now either like PS1, N64 era and earlier probably would be what I'd say. There's not really any particular justification. The GameCube and PS2 and Xbox are old as well, but they feel more modern than the PS1. I don't know.
Well, that might be your age because to me the Amiga still feels recent, and that was 25 years ago I last really used Amiga in anger, so.
Anything earlier than the NES to me feels like primitive because I never had an NES. Super Nintendo is the first system I remember actually like having growing up with. Not that I played it that much, but like it was in the house, So anything before that is feels like a whole generation older to me, which is just my head. It's not official, but
yeah. So I suppose the answer to that is we don't know. So let's move on to Girl Boss, the LinkedIn for women. Now, we'll leave our thoughts to this for a moment. Girl Boss is a media company which creates content aimed at females, and they've they've probably launched over this, and then decided to launch a new professional networking site called Girl Boss. Girl Boss Professional Networking 2.0, built for ambitious women. It's essentially LinkedIn for women. But that kind of implies that LinkedIn isn't for women. And I mean, I'm pretty certain at least 50% of my contacts on LinkedIn are women. So, it's built for ambitious women, designed as a platform for entrepreneurs, marketers, creatives, side hustlers, whatever they are, and executives to connect on a number of levels. It's a nice idea. I would like to see it do well, but I don't think it can do well in the world of LinkedIn owned by Microsoft. What do you think, Ben?
You don't think it'll do well at all? I'm curious. I'm kind of the same way. I mean, prefacing this, I mean, I'm on LinkedIn, but I'm rarely ever actively using it. But yeah, I agree. I feel like I'm a lot of females I'm connected with on LinkedIn. I mean, people from where I went to college and colleagues and stuff. I mean, it's not like it's only guys on LinkedIn. So it seems like this is a little more relaxed, maybe. Like it's more like the launch document says, you can share like that you just ran a marathon or whatever, so maybe it's a little less stuffy than LinkedIn. Yeah. It's less I guess if you're talking about stereotypical male and female, it's less like achievement oriented and more like experience oriented, which is fine. It says men can join. I don't know. It says, the idea so you can get ideas from other women and stuff and bounce your ideas off of people. So I'm not really sure why men would, like, what they would do if they joined. But yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I'm curious if it'll get off the ground though, because I don't think anyone's really that passionate about LinkedIn. Yeah. So will people be passionate about this? I don't know.
I don't know. Well, I mean, how do I use LinkedIn? I mean, I don't want to do LinkedIn down here because I've got gigs through LinkedIn. With little effort, in all honesty, people who I've been connected with found me on LinkedIn. I think I'm right in saying that Make Use Of writer Andy Betts, who's a general freelancer, he was previously an editor of a magazine, a print publication, and I think he found me through LinkedIn initially. When I started working on Android magazine about 5 years ago. And I also contribute to a site called Electro Pages and the Electro blog, which is really a kind of business focused website. But prior to that, I worked on a related site called Electro Maker, and they found me through LinkedIn. And again, I hadn't done anything. I was just on LinkedIn, and they were looking for people who write about particular topics, and they found me. So there's a good passive side to LinkedIn, and Girl Boss seems like it might be a bit more require a more proactive attitude.
Less just like put up your accomplishments and see what happens, and more like seek people out, or maybe it's more for people like I saw in their FAQ it said what does the free membership include, and it says people that you can talk to about questions that can't be answered on Google. So I guess maybe it's less of recruiting and more of like, hey, I just started my own business. What do you think is the best way to do this thing about taxes or whatever? Like more like talking to real people who have experience with what you're doing instead of just getting answers from Yahoo Answers or whatever.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, I mean, all the best to Girl Boss. I hope it works out for you. Obviously, it's going to have to go in a very different direction to LinkedIn, but they no doubt have a detailed plan, and I suspect that the whole LinkedIn for women is basically just marketing talk for what it isn't really, but what it can be for you.
Yeah, because again, I'm not a woman, obviously, but I haven't heard this sentiment of of females saying, oh, LinkedIn sucks, I wish there was an alternative for women. I haven't really heard that. I mean, they very well, someone may be saying that. I've never heard that, but so it doesn't seem like, oh yeah, that's such a natural fit. But Yeah, I mean, if you have an idea,
Yeah.
go for it. So,
Well, LinkedIn does kind of suck. I mean, I'm
yeah.
forever struggling to find my profile
Oh,
while I'm
yeah.
logged in. And
Yeah.
when you go to one page and then you think, oh right, I want to put an update up. Oh, well, where's the box gone that you put an update in?
Yeah,
It's
it's
just
super.
whereas if I go on Twitter, I can click a button and I can put an update in just like that.
User friendliness is.
Yeah, most definitely. Okay, let's go on to some tips. The best tools for unraring RAR files. I haven't seen a RAR file in ages.
Yeah, that seems like kind of an old school format. I mean, I it's almost always like a zip or .7z file.
Yeah,
RAR theme seems. I
yeah.
don't know. Maybe it's more
RARs were
business.
big. RARs were big in the 80s, obviously. RAR files themselves were kind of big in the early kind of disk image era, weren't they?
Yeah, that makes more sense. Maybe when you're ripping stuff off a CD or
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah.
yeah.
But
So
if you come
there are
across
various formats. Yeah, I mean, if you
Yeah.
come across a RAR, then you can probably use WinZip to unzip it. Now, WinZip's a funny thing, isn't it? Because there's two WinZips essentially. There's WinZip, and then there's the zip decompression tool that you get in Windows
Yeah.
by
Which
default.
probably assumes people think that when people which probably leads people to assume that WinZip is owned by Microsoft or something. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so those are different things. Now, there's WinRAR as well, which is also an option. WinRAR will tell you that you can't use, or it used to tell you that you had to buy it, or wait a few seconds before you used it, which was the most bizarre business model to me. I'm not sure if that's still the case.
I'm pretty sure that it is. Yeah, I watched a YouTube video recently that was called. It was interesting. If you're interested, it's called like WinRAR and the Infinite Trial or something.
Right.
It was like a 6-minute video. It just looked at how like that old shareware model was way more common back in the day when it was like you could try the software and then it would just nag you or ask you to tell your friends about it or whatever. So it's like they expect you to use it without paying, but they leave the option open if you want to. So it's almost kind of a meme at this point. So yeah, it's weird. I don't know. It's like that's like I can't think of any other software that does that now. Like that's such an old school model.
Well, there's very few tools that are still around from those days as well.
Yeah, they've been superseded or gone extinct. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of which, PZip, that's another option, and that's free to use. That handles RAR, 7Z, tar, zip files. There's also 7-zip itself, which I think is probably, that's really the kind of go-to decompression tool now, isn't it?
Yeah, I always 7-zip is kind of the, if someone ever says I need to open this, just install 7. If I'm setting a computer up for someone, I just tell them to install 7-zip. I mean, it looks ugly, but it installs in 5 seconds. It's free of any kind of bloatware and just works really. PZip is prettier, so I'll recommend that sometimes, but 7-zip is, to me, why use anything else? It doesn't cost anything.
Sure. And there's also B1 Free Archiver, which is also has an online version, and there are various online tools for unpacking RAR files, and there are RAR solutions for Android and Mac OS as well. Again, it's very rare that you come across a RAR, or rather you come across a RAR these days. I know I've got a few. They're on old discs, old CD-ROMs, but and old CD-ROMs, now that's a topic for another day. Old CD-ROMs.
What to do with them?
They don't last forever, do they?
That's true.
Yeah. There's a news flash for you, listener. They don't last forever. We will come back to that another time. Just to remind you, the Really Useful podcast is available to listen to on iTunes, Spotify, Transistor.fm, and pretty much anywhere that you get hold of your podcasts. And we're even on YouTube, and sometimes we're on YouTube with moving pictures.
Moving pictures,
yeah. Let's move on to our next topic, which is the art of the apology. How to say sorry with an email and mean it, because everybody screws up, and it's important to apologize, especially when you're wrong.
Right.
Yeah. Ben, what's this about?
That's right. So I recently updated an older article that was about how to say sorry with an email. So I have to preface this by saying I'm not sure that I've actually ever done this myself. So this was kind of just general principles kind of put into email. But basically, the idea is that a proper apology kind of has three main parts to be effective. So the first part is that you acknowledge that you did something wrong. The second part is that you feel and express your remorse for your actions, and you're empathetic to understand how those actions hurt the other person or someone else. And then restitution, where you explain how you'll make the situation right. So, of course, you can click through the full article. I'm not going to read through the entire guide, but the idea with the apology email is that you address the person properly. So, typically, dear or whoever, if it's a business email. And then the main thing to take away is that an apology is more about restoring the broken relationship, if you will, between you and the other person. It's not trying to prove that you were right or explain what happened. In the case of, you screwed up some assignment and it made your boss look like an idiot or whatever. Even if it was because your coworker was tying you up or IT didn't fix your computer or whatever, a proper apology explains, I realized that I missed the mark on this and that it made you embarrassed in front of the shareholders or whatever. So that's the main idea. I would say keep it short, just kind of stick to those three parts of the formula. And of course, restitution is the other important part. So it's not just I'm sorry. It's how do you make it right? If you can fix what you broke, then you do that. If not, you can explain what you'll do in the future to try to keep it from happening again. So that's the main gist of it. Of course, email is not always the best way to apologize. I would say if you're able to do it in person or even over the phone, that would be a lot better than email. But in some cases, maybe it's urgent or your boss lives on the other side of the world or something. Sure. Email would be the way you have to do that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it all makes sense. I don't think I've ever had to apologize by email. I'm not sure I would apologize by email. I think maybe for me that seems like an easy get out, unless there's distance involved.
Yeah, I agree. To me, it's like breaking up over a text message or something. Like it just seems like a kind of a.
I'm so old. Yeah. I've never done that.
Yeah, well, but similar to that, just like it's kind of cowardly to like. I mean, on the one hand, I get it because I prefer, I'd rather email someone about whatever, because it's not like when you're on the phone, you have to think in real time and respond to things, whereas an email, you can think about what you want to say. So I get that aspect, but that's why, I would say try to avoid apologizing on email if you can, but.
Yeah. Definitely. Let's move on to our final item on this week's Really Useful podcast. 5 clever ways to use DIY cleaning slime or putty. Is the title of the article, which I produced a few days ago. Listen, the idea behind this really was my children are obsessed by slime. They watch an inordinate amount of, or they did until I put a stop to it, because I didn't know they were doing it. I thought they were watching arts and crafts videos on YouTube on the morning before school. But it turns out they're watching people mixing up slime. And it's not ideal, really. It's... basically, and this is the video, right? So it's top down. Imagine this is the surface here. Okay. Yeah. Pour out some slime onto the surface here. Camera's looking at it, and then you don't see any face. You just see some hands going in like that, and it's all gooey, symmetrical, slime. Gooey, kneading and stuff to make quite awful patterns. But it occurred to me that, you can make your own slime, and don't have to be doing all that with it. It is quite a useful material. Substance, because it can be used to clean up. It has a tacky element to it because it's got glue in it, PVA glue. 5 ounces of white PVA glue, a 1/4 cup of borax, and 1.5 cups of warm water. It's important to use rubber gloves for this because borax is caustic when mixed with water, so obviously you don't want to be getting skin burns. Now, once this is created, you get a kind of a blue tacky sort of a substance, although there'll be a bit more of it. You can then use it for picking up dust and dirt around a keyboard, other parts of your computer. You can clean your computer mouse, speaker jack or charging port on a phone, because they can get blocked up with dust and dirt.
Oh, gross.
Standing dust from PCs and games consoles. Even the air vents on your car will get cleaned with a rollover of this stuff. It doesn't last forever. You can buy cleaning gel. It's quite useful. It starts at quite a bright colour, and you can tell when it's past its best because the sauce been tacky, and it goes a kind of a dark sort of a colour.
Oh, okay.
But it is just as easy to make it. So yeah, it's an option, and maybe get your children involved with making it. I don't know.
A
But
little bit
yeah,
of science while you clean.
Well, that's it. Yeah. Have you used any packaged cleaning putty slime?
I don't think I've ever done that. As soon as I saw the article, I knew what it was referring to. I've seen that sold, or maybe saw someone use it when I worked in IT or whatever, but I've never used it myself. But I could picture how it picks up all the junk when you're running it over your keyboard or whatever.
Yeah, I used to have some. I don't know what happened to it. I was thinking it might be in my office drawer, which is basically a drawer in my kitchen. But no, I don't have that. But so that's ways you can use DIY cleaning slime or putty to clean up your computer. And it's very important to keep everything dust and dirt free. Really, I was looking at my Xbox a few minutes ago before we started recording. I noticed it's developed a layer of dust which needs sorting out pretty imminently. But that's the way things go.
Yeah, it's amazing how everything gets. I mean, even it's easy to miss or just kind of forget about it, and then stuff just gets so nasty.
Yeah. Especially when you got a PC tower on the floor, and you've got an animal in the house. The amount of hair that gets sucked up is quite remarkable. It's like a barber's floor sometimes.
When I bought my desk, it came with a little platform to put your desktop on, which I use to keep it off the floor, which is nice. It still gets a little bit dusty, but I mean, I cleaned it out a couple of weeks ago, and it wasn't. I expected it to be worse. I mean, there was a little bit of dust to blow out, but it wasn't like caked with debris and everything. So that's good.
Yeah, it can happen. So that's this week's really useful podcast, in which we talked about Amazon Alexa voice recordings, Antstream, Girlboss, the LinkedIn for women. We looked at how to open RAR files and other compression files, the art of the apology over email, and DIY cleaning slime. We'll be back next week for another really useful podcast from Make Use Of. Until then, it's goodbye from us.